When it's time to replace your motorcycle's brake pads, you're gonna be faced with a lot of options. What's the best pad for your bike and the way you ride it? Let's open up the shop manual and find out. This episode of the Shop Manual is powered by DuraBoost batteries. Get 10% off your DuraBoost purchase at RevZilla.com with discount code 10OFF-TSM. As overwhelming as all the brake pad options may seem, you really just need to decide between three common compound choices: sintered, semi-metallic, and organic. The friction material influences the overall braking force, the heat resistance, the pad's life, as well as other factors. And once you understand the pros and cons, it'll be a whole lot easier to choose the right pads. The most common friction material is sintered metal. These pads are made from powdered copper, bronze, and steel that's been fused together under extreme heat and pressure. Sintered pads are what most modern motorcycles come with stock, and they're gonna work well on pretty much all on-road applications. Sintered pads have good bite and strong progressive braking. They're also highly resistant to brake fade, which is when the friction material overheats and loses stopping power. That heat resistance makes sintered pads ideal for aggressive street riding and track days, yet they still work well when cold and in the wet, so they're a good fit for commuting and touring too. Drawbacks to sintered pads include price. Of the three options, these are the most expensive and typically cost about $50 per caliper. They also tend to wear the disc surface faster, and they can be noisier and dustier than the other compound choices. Still, given sintered pads' excellent performance and durability, they're tough to beat, especially if you're an aggressive rider. At the other end of the performance spectrum are organic brake pads. These are composed of carbon-based organic materials like rubber, aramid fibers, and even nutshells that are held together with a heat-resistant binding resin. Organic brake pads are pretty soft, so they have a gentle initial bite and modulate really well under light to moderate lever pressure. They're also quiet, work well in the rain, and are exceptionally easy on roaders. They're also easy on your wallet because, unlike the organic produce at the supermarket, organic brake pads are pretty cheap. We're talking $30 to $40 per set. Unfortunately, they wear quickly, will feel vague under hard braking, and will fade when pushed. Organic brake pads are really an old technology that's not a great fit for modern, powerful motorcycles. That being said, some riders still like to put them in the rear caliper for the fine control they offer, and they could be a good match for gentler commuting, especially if you live in a wet climate. Finally, you've got your semi-metallic or semi-sintered brake pads. This is essentially a hybrid of organic and sintered formulas. The pucks still incorporate some amount of metallic content. It's about 20 to 40% by volume, and that's to help the pads have better durability and friction, as well as improve fade resistance under heavy use. These pads were invented as cars and motorcycles were becoming faster, and the brake systems had to be more heat resistant. Semi-metallic pads are fairly quiet, last a long time, and are a great option for a variety of bikes, from scooters to ADVs. Semi-metallic pads are more expensive than organics, but they have increased durability and performance, so they're a good match for everything from commuting to C and B group track days. So those are the three main categories of brake pads. However, there are a couple of others that you might come across. They include ceramic, carbon, and pads labeled for racing. Now, carbon and racing pads are genuinely for track use only, and even then, only if you're one of the fastest guys out there. That's because they have to be hot to work well, and you're just not gonna get that kind of heat in them riding on the street. Also, they are really expensive. Ceramic, on the other hand, is a friction material that's become increasingly popular as manufacturers dial back the use of heavy metals like nickel and copper, which aren't great for the environment. Instead, ceramic pads typically incorporate iron for friction stability, and the result is something similar to a semi-metallic pad. Whichever flavor of brake pad you go for, know that they are sold two to a card, so enough for one caliper. Therefore, if you have a twin disc setup, you need to get two sets. Also bear in mind that new brake pads take a while to bed into your rotors, so make sure you follow the manufacturer's break-in recommendation, which typically entails increasingly hard braking over the course of 50 to 100 miles. Friends, viewers, thank you for spending this time with me during another episode of the Shop Manual. Now, if you're interested in braking better, scan the QR code on your screen because I wrote an article about how you are guaranteed to stop faster. It does not require purchasing anything or making any changes to your bike, just a modification to the way you ride. Now, if you like this show and you like CTXP Adventures and you like Zach's Daily Rider, you know that these shows are produced with money that comes from your purchase at RevZilla. So if you want to support the shows, you know what to do. Buy your stuff from RevZilla. Thanks.